Today we're talking about self-awareness in your mental blocks for progress in your dating life and relationship management. I'm Duke DeLate for the Intimacy Liberation Army, and I had an interesting conversation with one of my clients today, and he had basically stopped doing coaching in the pickup realm, in the going out and meeting new people, learning social skills, and all that realm, and wanted to restart it. And I hit him up with this. I'm like, look, we're doing it a little bit differently now, and all the new 2025 plans with Limitless and all that. And I said, well, let's talk about what were your roadblocks in the past, and why you think that this path is going to help you, and what we need to remove so that your progress is actually not going to be stopped by your weird mental issues that you had before. And basically, he wasn't like a normal client. He wasn't like just, I'm afraid of meeting new people and I don't know what to say and I don't know how to tell stories and all that stuff. He got through all that stuff with flying colors. He actually started getting girlfriends and having a lot of sex and enjoying the scene, as it were. And he would pause for a little bit and date somebody, and then come out of that, and then go meet a bunch of people, and then date somebody. So he was with me for about a year, and then every time he would get to a point where he achieved a certain level of success, where like he had this thing where it's like, okay, no girls that are over 35. Okay, cool. So then he goes out and he finds a girl that matches, and she's really hot, and so it's the hottest girl he's ever hooked up with, but she's a little crazy. So they dated for like a month and a half, and then they called it off, and then he went back out in the field again, and then he would raise the standards, just so he always had like a challenge. And that's kind of how his brain worked. Is like if it's going to mean anything, it's going to be really hard. And just like I was talking about in that video a few days ago called "It Can All Be So Easy," um, like it doesn't have to be hard, but you can have an identity that if you overcome this big crazy obstacle, then your ego's really satisfied. And so he would keep moving the goalposts on his goals so that it would always be just out of reach or way fantastically out of reach, so that he could amp up the motivation. Okay, well, then I'm going to do 30, and then I'm not going to stop until I drop dead, right? And then he would get all amped up, and then he would obviously burn himself out, because most of communication strategy, learning this stuff, is more about consistency. It's kind of like the gym. It's the point of learning social skills is to get you comfortable with how you interact with a variety of situations. I always say that calibration is king, right? I learned that from my original coach, Owen. Like, you are looking for the ability to be able to be comfortable and then interact well, like calibrate in the moment to anything that comes up. And there's a whole variety of things that are possible there. So it behooves you to go out and get practice with a bunch of different varying situations so that you can think on your feet and calibrate faster. That's really what learning game is. It's not like learning the ideal line that gets you laid fast. It's being the kind of guy that is attractive and doesn't self-sabotage in any social situation. And so we were going through this with him today, and he doesn't understand what the thing is that makes him flip out and try to chase the validation of setting a ridiculously crazy arbitrary goal and then grinding to achieve it. But if he understood where that was and he had some self-awareness around that issue, he would be able to properly evaluate whether or not that strategy was working for his overall goals, or whether his emotions were being managed well. And then he could make some progress. Because while he was training with me the first round, he was making a lot of progress. Like, he went from being afraid of talking to anybody to being able to talk to everybody to being able to bring groups of people together and get other guys hooked up, and he was able to do the after party thing and all the cool social stuff, and he started getting laid a lot, and like, he was making a lot of progress. But his internal system was like, nope, you're in the same place you always were. Right? You aren't making any progress. You're not worth it. You're not this, right? And all these things were telling him from his internal monologue that he had made no progress. Wasn't worth this thing. He couldn't figure out a way to get through this barrier. And so, although he was making a lot of progress and getting a lot of results, he didn't think so, because he was just focused on the failure in the moment from the goalposts he had just moved. Like, in the beginning, he was just like, I want to be able to go out and meet somebody and escalate quickly with them. That was his first goal. Was like, I just want to be able to talk to a new girl and get her attracted to me quickly. And we did that, and then he's like, okay, well, I want a girl who's really hot. And I'm like, well, I mean, your standards are high enough that you're not going to hook up with anybody you're not attracted to. But so he kept shooting for that and shooting for that and shooting for that, and then he's like, okay, hot, but they don't tell me what to do all the time, and they're not crazy, and they're not trying to control my life, and whatever. And he did this metamorphosis of all these things and passed all of these milestones. Got to the point where he was hooking up with a really attractive girl who wanted to be in a relationship with him, and they carried it on for a little bit. And he had already been through the whole thing and avoided the emotional abuse from the girls who weren't treating him well, and all the stuff. He'd grown so much, and then as soon as he got out of that relationship, he's like, nope, not gonna do that anymore. I'm only going for girls who are younger than 25 and who are 8s on the look scale, right? So now he's setting his goals like higher and higher and higher, which is perfectly fine if you have a good reason for the goals, right? I'm always talking about self-awareness and values and standards and your own personal assessments of things. But he wasn't setting the goal of like, I want to bang 8s who are under 25 as a true desire. It's really just a challenge. It's like, I can't get those, so that's my next thing, right? It's arbitrary. So then he was experiencing a lot of resistance because he had not yet learned the skills to deal with that population, right? I am 46 years old this year, and I can still run with 25-year-old people in the social scene and do the party thing and do all whatever. I can still do that, but I am so, like, over the last couple of years, I've actually just, my interests have changed, my values have changed. So, like, I was hanging out with these 25-year-old crew for a long time, and I was actually the old guy in the group, and eventually we just didn't see eye to eye. Like, I don't care about Fortnite. I don't care about, like, all the things they were talking about. I don't want to go smoke weed at 2 p.m. in the parking lot and park behind the dumpsters so the cops don't find us. Like, none of those things are on my radar, right? Like, and so I actually started breaking away from that, not the age group, but like the interest group of all people that age at the bar. I could talk about video games, I guess. I could, like, go play a new video game a bunch so that I know what the fuck I'm talking about, and then fit in there, right? I could do that, but I just don't give a shit. Like, I film videos like this. I make music. I have other hobbies, right? And so I'm okay with, like, not fitting in with that group of people. And but he was also, he'd been gone for a long time because he was, like, in military or whatever. And so, like, he didn't have the normal 20s that most of the the local bar people have. So he didn't have a lot of ways to relate, and never went to college in a non-COVID, non-online way. So like he didn't have that interaction and that experience, and so he was having trouble um, getting off the landing pad there, which you just apply yourself for a few weeks and you'll learn the lay of the land and be able to integrate. But he wasn't at that point, and every time he got a rejection, he took it super hard, and he was just a failure, and he never needed to do anything. And he dropped into this super deep depression, and I was like, okay, well, there's something deeper at play here, right? Like uh, you are not proportionately disappointed by your performance right now. Like there's something deeper, right? You're dropping into this crazy depression that, and I'm not talking shit. I'm just saying that like normal, uh, try these tactics, see if they work, iterate, isn't working here because you have this emotional connection to something way deeper. And from a trauma informed perspective, you need to clear that up first. And I'm not a therapist. I'm a fucking dating coach, right? So go find a therapist, go do some therapy, find one that you like and that can actually push you forward through. Get medicated if you need to, and then come back to this with a so that we're not pricking the triggers of the of the deep dark, self sabotage part. And as a coach, I'm here to hold you accountable, give you tactics, techniques, and things to try, and carry you along your journey, knowing where you came from. Right? I'm not supposed to fix your mental health issues. That's not what I do. I'm not certified for that. I'm not qualified for that. So, and so we had this long conversation today about, he wants to get back in, he wants to do all the stuff, and I said, okay, well, we can do that, but I need you to be in therapy. I need you to be working through these deeper issues that we have identified, but I'm not qualified to lead you or guide you through. And at the end of the day, no matter how you look at it, you're the one who has to do it, right? If you're getting out of depression and you're finding reasons to live and you're looking for your life purpose, there's no coach that's going to be able to just pull you into bliss, right? Like you have to make those decisions on your own. Otherwise, they're not your decisions. Otherwise, you're just responding to somebody else's expectations, like you're probably doing your whole life. And so you need to figure that out for yourself anyway. I mean, I can help give ideas, but you're the one who has to. Okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to try. This is what I want to get my hands dirty in and see if I like it, and then maybe find an identity in it. You're the one who has to do that, and with the help of uh, you know, classical Western therapy, you can explore the reasoning on why you keep dropping into this apathetic state. And as a trained practitioner in NLP and did a lot of stuff with the Hawkins model, I help do. And I'm certified trauma informed coach, but I do trauma release stuff and hypnosis stuff that helps with that. But like at the end of the day, you're the one who has to get out of your own way, and especially in typical Western masculinity, right? Like you don't have a group of really close friends that you can sort of put things all out on the table and get all these different perspectives of. Like Western women have a very rich resource in their ability to get together with a bunch of their friends and just bitch about shit and get everybody's perspective and sort of round table that collaboration of problem solving or problem viewing. Really, like they're able to shape their viewpoint and worldview and perspective on events and situations because they share them all around and they get bounced back and forth from all these different perspectives. And I think there's a lot of strength in having the girl group that can do all that. And a lot of us as men, like I have a crew like that now because I'm a communications coach, and the people who hang around me don't mind breaking things apart. But for a long time, I just thought I had to deal with it on my own. That I was in my own personal special struggle that nobody else experienced, because we as Western men, we don't have that tight bond unless we have like siblings or something. So, um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, back to self awareness. All right, so what was I talking about? What was the original? Oh yeah, removing mental roadblocks. Okay, so what I was saying is that this guy was doing all the right actions, learning all the right things, getting all the right skills, but his internal monologue and his internal perception of who he was a failure, not good enough, not worth it, and had some real clinical level self worth issues that um, perhaps need a village to help fix, because he's in a place, and I have a lot of compassion for him, but like I said, I'm not qualified, and um, I haven't built that level of rapport with him where I can go and tweak all that. Um, so uh, I guess where I'm going with this is that your mental roadblocks are not necessarily conscious. In fact, most of the time they're subconscious. It's not just like, oh, I'm afraid of rejection, and if I go talk to her, she might reject me, and then I'll feel bad. That's why I don't like approaching girls. If that was your problem, you could fix that pretty quickly by approaching a lot of people and having a bunch of conversations and just acclimating uh, and sort of progressively desensitizing yourself to the fear that you have of doing all that stuff. It's pretty straightforward, but very often the subconscious meaning that you put behind relationships, the meaning that you put behind sex, and the meaning that you put behind uh, your standing in a social hierarchy, when you start seeing real world evidence of that you don't understand, it's very easy to be like, oh, uh, that means I've been lied to the whole time. Like, oh, I didn't even understand this. How stupid am I? And you have all this weird self judgment stuff that, um, if you're working on this stuff, it's basically just a lot of pain in the beginning. Like, there's no recourse, because even if you're getting results, even if you're like, okay, so personal story rather than talking in third party here. When I started this stuff, I had just gotten out of a relationship that was 7 years long, and I spent most of my 20s in this relationship. That she was the perfect woman for me. We were perfectly matched. Like, everything was great. We were a model relationship for everybody around. We were really good communicators. It was awesome, but it was also young love, right? So um, when we decided to call it quits, we just didn't agree on the future. So like, she never wanted to have kids ever, and I thought if I was going to get married, we should have kids. And so we basically ended it because we couldn't find a resolution, but for that particular issue. But everything else was cool. Like, we were really good at communicating and loving and meeting each other's needs and all that stuff. Um, when I came out with a pretty high self-esteem, because I thought, oh, I'm really good at relationships, but I'd like to try my path at um, like dating, right? Because I'd always just kind of fallen into somebody who was interested in me, and then I would just try to make that last and go get married, right? Like, that was my whole strategy for my first 6 partners, and so I said, okay, I'm not going to get married anytime soon, and I'm just going to go date around and do a bunch of stuff. And I hired the best coaches that I could find, which at the time was Owen Cook and Jeff Allen, and then I moved on to all these other people and trained with all these guys in the industry. Um, and what I realized is that approaching and like pickup and then game and dating were completely different realms, and dating for marriage was also a completely different realm, right? Like, they're all different skill sets, and I sucked shit at approaching, and I sucked shit at dating, And I sucked shit about being interesting and cool one-on-one in conversations. Just like when I started YouTube, I fucking sucked shit on video. Probably still do. But at the at the end of the day, I just decided I was going to grind through it because I'm a big nerd. Like I'm so interested in human interaction and communication, and I'm just a nerd. Like I sit in bed, I stare at the ceiling, and I think about how humans interact and why they behave the way they do. Like I am like a straight up psych nerd. That's why I carried on. Like it wasn't because I was looking for some sort of weird external goal to get laid a whole bunch and to get my fucking feelings handled and all this stuff. I was just like, that was interesting. Why do I feel this pain? Huh? And I would like analyze it and overthink it and because I always knew that I was going to do this a long time, and that I was shooting like in the first half a year. I knew that I was going to be a coach. So like I I just stuck to it for a multitude of reasons, and eventually I got really really good at it in a way that uh, I solved my relationship issues, right? Which lo and behold, as I continued to step up, I moved the goalposts, but I moved the goalposts for reasons, right? Like I didn't just move them because okay, there should be another goal and I need another challenge. I was just like, I think I could do better in a relationship. I think I could have a better relationship with this person. And I made these mistakes here, and then I started learning about attachment theory, and then I started learning about codependence, and I started learning about fixing your abandonment wounds and all this other stuff. And I got into the trauma release stuff with Hawkins, and like I got super nerdy about that because I was running into real problems in real life. That gave me a reason to shoot for another level. And the the arbitrarily setting goals just so that you can find an identity in something is really cool when you're in discovery mode. But when you're actually trying to get things accomplished, it's not enough. Like you need to know why. You need to figure out why you want that kind of attention, why you want to be that kind of approved, why you need this woman's validation, why you want to go experience new activities with new faces, what is attractive about her, right? Like there's so many of us, and when we first got into like us as coaches, when we first got into it, that we would be attracted to a girl, we don't know why. We just figure, oh, the chemistry's right, so then we go in and we try to make it work, and we're attached to it, so then we get a little bit needy, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but um, I now have very clear standards for what makes a woman attractive to me. And when I have that visceral physiological response, I'm like, damn, right? I know why. I know what kind of energy she's bringing. I know how many reference experiences I've had in the past of girls like her, the good memories that I had, so that I'm mapping on. I'm very aware of that, and so when I go in and I give a compliment, or I'm telling her how attracted I am to her in throughout the course of the conversation, I can be very specific on why I was intrigued and what else I would like to know in order to meet my other standards and boundaries. And that creates a much more organic conversation that isn't plagued by singing dancing monkey and trying to find whatever makes her happy and all this other stuff that newbie pickup guys try to do. And my goalposts move because I get into relationships, and then they don't work for one particular reason or another, and very often it's because I didn't lead it correctly, or I dropped the ball, or I misjudged the personality match, and then it kind of came out later, and then I'm like, fuck, now I got to kind of start over again, and then but learning those lessons, how do I check for that in the future? How do I prompt in the middle of a qualification conversation that I would like this new trait to be met, and what does she think about it? And as I continue to move forward in my dating life, I'm like, oh, like I have unreasonably high standards now because I've stepped them up over the years, and I've stepped them up because of self-awareness. I'm like, okay, I want to date a girl who's hypersexual and does sex work for a living, right? So I go find a stripper and I hit on them until I make it happen, and then I'm getting things thrown at my head, and dealing with other people in the drug world and all this other bullshit that I don't care about, right? Like I just don't. Yeah, she's hot, but we don't match, right? Like we don't match. So why the hell am I trying to date this person? Anyway, so then I would raise my standards, and I'd be like, okay, I would like an attractive woman who understands the social power that she has as a sexual being, but I also want one who can, communicate and navigate through conflict. I would also like one that would appreciate when I'm bidding for attention and trying to solve an issue with us. I would my standards come up, and then next time I go out and date, I'm like, yeah, I'm really into people who like to kind of deal with things rather than feel like they have to close off and punish their partner for stuff. And I can just gauge how the woman responds if she's in that headspace or not. And I don't really even have to judge. I'm not like, this is the right way to do it, the wrong way to do it, but like, this is what I'm looking for at the moment. And let's see if you and I can kind of be on the same page on that. And if we're not, then it's fine. And we're better off as friends, or we're better off as, they're better off finding another partner or whatever. And that's fine. But if we get on the same page, then it's fun to play life together for a little bit. And so what I'm saying is my standards went up because I continued to experience new things, figured out what I did and didn't like, understood my preferences, tried everything on the menu, and then realized that like some of these things they might be good for other people, but I don't want to eat them again. And this guy, he was constantly moving his goalposts because he has this arbitrary goal of getting good with girls. But the real goal is super deep and buried. It's something like, if I'm able to handle this dating thing, then I can call myself a man. Then I have some sort of autonomy. I have choice now, and I'm not going to be abused and under the thumb of women who just have been toying with my mind my entire life, which is a noble goal to have. But if you're not aware that that's why you want these end results, then your end results are going to pale in comparison to the absolute bullshit you have to go through to rip that trauma out of your system. So, how does this tie back to self-awareness and dealing with your mental roadblocks? The answer is, the answer I'm thinking while I was doing this sort of free-form podcast is, most of your mental roadblocks are fucking subconscious. And the only real way to sort of rid yourself of them in your subconscious with practice is to have your conscious mind track with your subconscious mind as you're moving through reality. That's my thesis. I think that you need to go out, meet a lot of people, learn how to calibrate, deal with the feelings that come up, deal with the triggers that come up, deal with the emotions that come up, and then solve them for yourself. Heal from those wounds. And use those interactions with all the other people, or use the interactions with all the other people to trigger those things and stress test your emotional system so that you develop a sense of resilience, you develop a clear understanding of who you are, you develop real self-awareness that allows you to be choosy, allows you to be secure in the decisions that you make, and it allows you to articulate them well to other people so that they know how to orient themselves around you. It was a little meandery, but I think you've come to expect that from me. Self-awareness and removing your mental roadblocks. That was the thing today. We'll get back to regularly scheduled how-to and top 10 tips and stuff like that tomorrow. Like I said, like you probably know, I've been doing a self-awareness system. We're calling it Know Yourself, KYS. Know Yourself all month, leading up to the release of my Know Yourself book that is coming out on the 1st of February. So if you want to get on the pre-order for that, click the link in the description. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe. Well, you can comment if you want. I don't really care. I will respond if you comment. But subscribe and hit the bell so that the video that comes out tomorrow, you'll get notified by YouTube. And it helps me get shown to more people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for joining me. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and until then, stay awesome.